Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and Smackdown back to back and try and figure out which show won for the week. It's the Raw and Smackdown after Clash of Champions, and I gotta admit, both shows really brought their A game this week. Let's see which of them came out on top. Seth Rollins opens up Raw. He's all smiles as he makes his way to the ring. On the microphone, he runs down all that happened to him the previous night at the pay-per-view, how he and Braun Strowman lost the tag team titles, how he beat Strowman at the end of the night to retain the Universal title, and then how at the very end of the night he got beat up by the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. He says he's got a match at Hell in a Cell with him, and so then the Firefly Funhouse crashes the party. Bray shows up on the screen to say hello, and Seth says he's one sick dude, and Bray says that maybe the Fiend will maybe say hello to some other friends by the end of the night. Then you see the Firefly outro, and Seth just looks incredibly confused at what just happened there. I think this segment's good because it sets the tone for the arc you're going to see throughout the night, because you will see Bray, some cut-ins of the Firefly Funhouse, kind of reminding people he's looking for people for some people to join his wall of friendship, so to speak. But the one little nitpick about this thing was, even though that Seth won the more important title, he kept the more important championship on Sunday, I think his body language is a bit too happy-go-lucky and too smiley at the fact that he just got beat up by Bray Wyatt at the end of the show, and he's out there for a little bit, and it's almost like it means nothing. Then we get a really weird moment after that opening segment where they run down some of the big matches on the night with the full screen graphics, but all the full screens are upside down, which is very weird. Either the Firefly Funhouse is still working its magic over the entirety of programming, or it's a very, very bizarre production botch, which I don't even know how you would organically come to that point. We get a Tag Team Championship Summit up next. The Raw and Smackdown Tag Team Champions, that's Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler and The Revival respectively, make their way to the ring to celebrate their big wins on Sunday. Robert Roode's on the mic talking trash, but not for very long though, because Braun Strowman shows up and he cleans house. He said backstage before the break that the first person he would see would get those hands, and get those hands they did. At least Roode was able to escape. He's living on to fight for the main event against Seth Rollins, while the other three got taken out. So, yay, Braun smash, boo, the tag team champions are weak. Six-man tag match up next as the OC take on Cedric Alexander and the Viking Raiders. Once again, great to see the Vikings involved in some actual competitive tag team action for a change. Cedric gets the hot tag, but he fails to see the blind tag by AJ Styles. He walks right into a phenomenal forearm, which he sells great, and then AJ covers him for the win. After the matchup, the fight resumes, though, keeps going on. Ivar does a big dive to the outside onto Anderson, Gallows, and Eric, but I don't think anyone really breaks his fall that well, because you can see he just like splats on the floor upon landing. And then we go back into the ring. Cedric and AJ are still fighting, and AJ hits Cedric with a second rope Styles clash. And man, if the dirt wasn't on him on Sunday, it sure is now. We get a pre-recorded clip of R-Truth and Carmella visiting the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville, and suddenly Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs appears and welcomes them to the city. Truth has no idea who he is, but then the mayor offers them a limo ride through the town so we can show them the sights, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. In your King of the Ring finals, Baron Corbin takes on Chad Gable in a real David versus Goliath type matchup is what they're billing here. I am glad they took this show off the pay-per-view the night before and moved it onto Raw. I think that if they moved to the pay-per-view, it just would have been lost in the shuffle and it would have been buried under a lot of other more prominent matches. So putting King of the Ring on Monday Night Raw instead of the pay-per-view, I thought was a great move. And speaking of great, this match was really great. These two just like gave each other everything. Like Gable bumped his ass off for Corbin, and Corbin gave a lot to Chad in reverse. Ultimately, Corbin gets out of the ankle lock, hits a sweet end of days to win the match, and he is your new King of the Ring for the year 2019. Like I said, great match here. You know, this tournament has really changed my mind on Corbin. I feel it's done that for a lot of people as well. And like I mentioned, I think once the pressure of being like the main event, like quasi-authority figure, always gunning for the main championship thing, once that pressure got off him, he had some time off of television, I think that this tournament has really rejuvenated him and has made him look a lot better than what he has been portraying for the bulk of this year and a lot of last year as well. Now, do I think he should have won King of the Ring? Like, it was really obvious from the start, like in hindsight, that he was going to go all the way through. The thing is though, it's like, you know, I think the best heel King of the Ring winners are the ones who like already have more heat to get. And I feel Corbin's already so nuclear with his heat. He does not need the King of the Ring to get more heat. I feel that you need more baby faces right now across the main roster and less and fewer prominent heels. We have plenty of heels right now across both shows. I think Chad winning the King of the Ring would have been nice. I'm optimistic, and based on what we see on SmackDown the next night, I'm optimistic that they can keep him as a prominent babyface without the King of the Ring tournament win. It would have been a nice feather in his cap, but it would have been a nice extra thing to kind of elevate him, similar to how it hopefully try to elevate guys like Ken Shamrock and Edge. You know, the two of the only three baby faces that have ever won the King of the Ring tournament. Like those two and Bret Hart have been it. We then go backstage to the Maria Kanellis gender reveal party hosted by the Street Profits and attended by lots of wrestlers who aren't on TV that much lately. Maria reveals that the baby's going to be a boy and then drops a real bombshell by announcing the father of the baby is actually Ricochet. And so we get this face-off between Ricochet and Mike Kanellis. Kanellis slaps him and challenges him to a fight in the ring right then and there. And then Titus O'Neil with this great moment here. He goes up to the foreground and goes, man, not only did you get this man's wife pregnant, you got slapped, you got to take care of this, you got to handle your business in the ring. Great stuff. And so, yeah, and then the Street Profits make this joke implying Maria was a stripper before she met Mike Kanellis. And that's that segment. We then go to the ring where Ricochet and Mike have this like impromptu matchup here. Like Mike's still in his street clothes. The announcers have completely lost their shit. Michael Cole is the voice of reason going, wait a minute, why aren't we being more harsh toward Maria? Because either A, she's lying, or B, she cheated on her husband. And the announcers are just totally corpsing and breaking down as this match goes on. Very short action. Ricochet wins with the recoil. And so he's like, sorry, man. And he walks off. Maria comes back after the commercial break and says, okay, obviously Ricochet's not the father, but she basically did it as a test to see if Mike could fight for her and her baby's honor, to try to motivate him, but he failed at that. And then she goes, okay, here's the real father, and it's Rusev. What? Rusev comes out sporting a great look. He was looking really cut, looking real jacked, baby, and he's got a sweet porn stash now. Robert Roode lost his porn stash, and it was bequeathed over to Rusev, apparently. So then Rusev comes in, beats the hell out of Mike Kanellis. All of a sudden, we have a match between these two now. Oh, the one other gem here is that Kanellis says to Rusev, you know, I'm happy for you too. I've had a long night, you know, whatever, congratulations. But Rusev beats him up anyway. Corey Graves calls Mike a beta cuck on live TV as this match is going on. Rusev wins the accolade. What in God's name is happening here? Like this whole, maybe a paternity or infidelity scandal storyline is just what this company needs for a real shot in the arm, pal. This, you know, they definitely shot their shot here with this, with a very outlandish, wild storyline where you have no idea where it's really going. But I'm definitely intrigued. I'm excited to see Rusev back. I don't know where the hell Lana fits into all this, but you know what? I'm going to go along for the ride. Meanwhile, in Knoxville, Mayor Glenn Jacobs gives R-Truth a tour of Neyland Stadium, home of the Vols. They meet a police officer who's also a referee in disguise. Truth tries to escape, but he runs face first into the goalpost and he knocks himself out. Mayor Glenn pins him for the 3 count and is the new 24/7 champion. He gives himself an "I still got it" chant before he runs off. I loved it. And I forget where I saw this on Twitter, but someone pointed out on Monday night that this is, you know, technically a Kane match, what we saw there in that segment, and that means that Kane has wrestled at least 1 match a year in WWE since 1995. What a statistic. Rey Mysterio versus Cesaro up next. For some reason, Cesaro's not dressed to wrestle, but he still talks smack to Rey on the mic anyway, and his son Dominic for that matter, saying if I see Dominic, I'm going to beat the hell out of him too. This match doesn't have a whole lot of heat to it, but it's still a very entertaining match. These guys are both like stupid athletic, and they're so impressive in the ring. Ultimately, the match ends when Rey counters a neutralizer attempt into the code red, and that's that. We then get a pre-recorded promo by the AOP. They're back, they're wearing suits, they're speaking in their native language, and they got subtitles on their videos to boot. In the promo, they talk about how they're not being given a fair shake because they're too violent in the ring. They said, we couldn't have careers in MMA because of how violent we are and how much we hurt our opponents. And they warned the company to give them an opportunity or they will take their opportunity and run roughshod over the tag team division. Very interesting promo. Good to see them coming back in this way. My question is, if they've been able to do subtitled promos this whole time. What the hell stopped him from doing that for the Kabuki Warriors? Sasha Banks and Bayley take on Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross in non-title action up next. Can we please get some official team names for these gals at this point? Anyway, it's a really good match. Go check it out. The story is the heels are especially vicious on this night. They actually eliminate Alexa from competition early on, so it becomes kind of a handicap match with Nikki. Ultimately, Banks makes Nikki tap out of the bank statement. Afterwards, she wants to put more of a hurting on Nikki with a chair. Becky Lynch comes out with her own chair, and it's a chair sword fight. They're just kind of clacking back and forth for a bit, left to right. We get the 2-on-1 threatened situation as Bayley is hovering as well. Charlotte comes out and to even the odds, and the best moment from this whole segment is when she's trying to get ready for her big boot to Bayley on the ramp, going downhill on the ramp in heels, and she has to take little steps for a second to get in position for it. You know, not only is Charlotte finally more justified as a babyface after what happened on Sunday, but just the fact she was able to pull that move off in heels makes her even more of a hero in my eyes. Becky then whops Sasha with a chair a couple of times, and Sasha and Bayley are now collapsed at a heap at each other's sides as Charlotte and Becky stand tall. This is actually a really good segment, from the match itself to the post-match fracas. Really good stuff. Then after the match, Sasha's backstage cutting a promo on Becky, challenging her to a rematch at Hell in a Cell, calls her a bitch. A couple segments later, Becky with a counter promo, and she brings the fire and ups the ante by saying, let's not make it at Hell in a Cell, let's put it in Hell in a Cell. And I'm very excited for this one because based on what we saw at Clash of Champions and the heat that this rivalry has, I cannot wait to see what these two can do to each other in Hell in a Cell. That could be one of the show stealers for sure. Meanwhile, in Knoxville, R-Truth is riding on the roof of Mayor Kane's car. Kane gets out and Truth rolls him up to regain his 24/7 championship. Mayor Jacobs goozles him, but Truth manages to talk him out of it, talking about togetherness or some such, and so they kind of reach an understanding, and that's where the segment ends there. We're not done with seeing Glenn Jacobs / Kane on this show, but I have to say this whole story arc with the two of them involved in the 24/7 title has been very entertaining. Lacey Evans taking on Dana Brooke in singles action, and oh my god, the spot of this match has to be that slingshot big kick that Lacey does where she jumps over the top rope and swings through the bottom ones. The impact at which she hit Dana in the mush looked so devastating. Major props for that spot there. Evans lays her out with the woman's right after grabbing the hair, then locks her in the sharpshooter to send a message to Natalya. Dana Brooke taps and Lacey wins. It's a good little match. Main event time, Seth Rollins takes on Robert Roode in non-title action. Pretty good match between these two guys. Seth has it in the bag with the stomp, then Dolph Ziggler runs in and the match is thrown out. The OC then run down. I thought it was kind of weird that their music plays as they're running down, but like it doesn't really kick in. It's just the yep part, and it's like it's over and done with. I think it would have been fine if he just didn't play the music at all. Would have felt more organic. All the baddies are beating up Seth. It's a 5-on-1 situation until suddenly Kane appears. The crowd goes nuts as the Big Red Machine cleans house. I couldn't help but laugh a little bit at that because the fact that all 5 of these guys have to sell their ass off for Kane in 2019. I know he's a local guy, gets a big pop, it's a great story, but still. Anyway, Kane's about to do the big arms thing when all of a sudden the lights cut out. The Fiend shows up. He mandibles Kane, and then he starts crawling menacingly towards Seth Rollins, who's recovering from his beatdown, and Bray's right in his face with his big old red eyes, and Seth looks very scared. Very spooky moment here. Then all of a sudden it cuts to the Firefly Funhouse intro, which for a solid minute they play this footage of the intro with the distortion and the different, like the sounds getting all messed up and everything. This goes on for a very long, very uncomfortable length of time before it finally cuts to black to end the show. And just what a crazy ending segment this was. We had a match, we had a post-match beatdown, we had a fun legend cameo, we had a dramatic entry of the villain, we have him doing a big thing, and then we have this very memorable, compelling thing to close the show of Bray just glowering over this prone Seth who's like terrified of what he saw there. Yeah, that was a really interesting way to close the show. One of many wild, crazy things to happen on Raw on Monday. SmackDown begins with a 6-man tag match as the New Day take on Randy Orton and the Revival. It's a fun opening match. The New Day win when Kofi hits Dawson with Trouble in Paradise. But the real story here is when Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman appear after the match. Kofi boldly tells his friends to leave the ring for this confrontation, and Heyman says that Lesnar's challenging Kofi to a championship match at the Fox premiere of SmackDown on October 4th. And Kofi accepts. Brock goes to shake his hand, but psych, it's an F5. 5. And so Kofi's laid out while Brock stands tall. And boy, the biggest challenge for Kofi's championship to date is what's going to happen here. Nice little rematch from Beast in the East, by the way, from a couple years ago. But the dynamic is very different now, especially with Kofi. So yeah, the foregone conclusion is that Kofi is going to be destroyed and he's going to drop the belt to Brock and everything. That's what will usher in the new era of SmackDown. It may very well happen, but I'm going to play, devil's advocate for a moment here and just say, what if Kofi is able to defy the odds and somehow upset Lesnar and retain the championship? I'm not saying that's a sure thing, but just something to ponder. Backstage, Sasha Banks is being interviewed, and she says that she accepts Becky's challenge for the title match in Hell in a Cell to pay-per-view, and she says, I've been in a cell before, and Becky can't say that. For a split second, I was going to say, actually, she was last year, and she actually won. Then I had to remind myself that match with Charlotte where she won the belt was at Hell in a Cell, not in Hell in a Cell. My mistake. Backstage, Michael Cole has a one-on-one sit-down interview with Eric Rowan. Rowan admits he was just trying to scare Roman Reigns by almost killing him a couple times last month. He then says, he's nobody's puppet. He's been disrespected by everyone over the years. He's not just some brute in the background. He says he is Daniel Bryan's intellectual and physical superior and that no one will disrespect him ever again. A nice little interview. What I liked about this was it kind of followed up on, my complaint from last week was when Rowan was trying to explain his side of the story, he got cut off before he got really get into the good stuff. I feel this interview here with Cole did a better job fleshing out and showing more of the motives that we didn't get last week. We're supposed to get a match between Ali and Shinsuke Nakamura up next, but it never really happens as Shinsuke and Sami Zayn end up cornering Ali and they beat him down. Shinsuke with the Kinshasa to end things, while Sami is yelling in the microphone saying Ali will never be a champion. So no match here in this segment, but it does kind of kickstart or restart, I should say, the angle that they were teasing the week that Shinsuke won the Intercontinental Championship that they kind of like put on the back burner for a while. But yeah, now we're going to have Ali versus Shinsuke. We'll see where that goes. As Zayn and Nakamura are celebrating in the ring, suddenly Kevin Owens appears in the crowd. He's been fired, but he does have a ticket, so he's sitting in the crowd watching the show. We then see Shane McMahon backstage, and he's been served with a document. We then see him make his way to the ring as we go to commercial break, and then after the break, he makes his way to the ringside area with his gaggle of local talent security. He reveals he's been slapped with a $25 million wrongful termination lawsuit by Kevin Owens, so he invites Owens into the ring, give him a microphone so that we can finally settle this thing and figure out and just hash out and air out the grievances, basically. Owens argues his case. He says that Shane beat him up as an official 2 weeks ago, doing the same thing that Shane himself fined Kevin for after what he did to Elias at SummerSlam. He says he's also been unfairly targeted by Shane since Kevin spoke out about him a couple of months ago. So he says that when he wins a lawsuit, he's going to be able to stand in the ring and publicly fire Shane McMahon. Not quite sure how that plays into the lawsuit. I'm no lawyer. And I'm guessing this is going to turn into a match at Hell in a Cell, possibly in Hell in a Cell, which, it's cute. It's a rematch from the Cell match they had 2 years ago. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to see it. I don't. Like I said 2 weeks ago, I'm kind of tired of the storyline. How they're going to justify getting Kevin back on the show, we'll see how we get there. But I'm just kind of done with this angle, honestly. Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks up next. The rapper Offset, the man behind the song Ric Flair Drip, is wearing a pink Ric Flair robe, and by the looks of things, little else underneath as he introduces Charlotte for the match. Good match between these two. Nice rekindling of their rivalry from a few years ago. Once Charlotte's got Sasha locked in the figure four, though, Bayley comes in. The match is thrown out into disqualification. Carmella makes the save. The announcers go, oh, she's a longtime friend of Bayley's. Oh, okay, that's interesting to know. I'm guessing that's more of like a behind the scenes, like real life sort of thing, because that's never been acknowledged on television as far as I can recall. But Carmella and Charlotte end up clearing the ring of the baddies, and so they stand tall, and that's how it ends. So I'm wondering how the dynamic between Carmella and Charlotte's going to go from here. I was already questioning the Charlotte-Becky Lynch dynamic, but now this is just even stranger. It's now time for King Baron's Corbination. I know, that was super lame. Anyway, Corbin on the microphone, he's got the robe and the crown on, everything. And he puts himself over in a big way. He brings out Chad Gable to make some more short jokes at his expense. Chad can stand no more, though. He takes down Corbin, and in doing so, destroys the throne. He tears up the robe, he smashes the scepter, and he stomps on the crown. And so hopefully this means Corbin will not be coming to the ring wearing this kind of gimmick every week, because I think that'd be very weird for him. But yeah, the clear of the feud with these guys is not over yet, and it's a good little way for Chad to get some of his heat back after losing on Monday. He still looks really strong. Like I said in the Raw review portion, I hope this does not. I hope this means that we get more of a sustained push for Chad, despite not winning the tournament. Hopefully they can position himself to be a great character and a great performer on SmackDown or wherever he ends up after the draft. Heavy Machinery take on the B team up next, and it looks like Otis has undergone a wardrobe change. His singlet has evolved into trunks. I guess him exposing his upper torso in the match last week must have caught the eye of Vince McMahon or something. Anyway, it's a short and sweet match. Heavy Machinery win with the compactor on Bo Dallas. Not much to say about the match itself, except it gives more momentum for Tucker and Otis. In your final segment for the evening, Daniel Bryan comes out to address the actions of Eric Rowan. Daniel says he's been exonerated of all those attacks on Roman Reigns and says he's been a lot of things over the years, but he's never been a liar. He says, despite what Rowan may think, that he always saw the potential in Rowan. He saw him as his friend. Rowan comes out and talks down to him some more, and Bryan basically says, if you feel disrespected, do something about it, because no amount of physical damage you could do could hurt more than the fact that our friendship is no more. Luke Harper then jumps Daniel from behind. Roman Reigns comes to make the save, but it proves to be too much as Harper and Rowan together destroy Roman on the outside. They start tearing the set apart. They start beating up security members as well. Iron Claw onto Daniel Bryan through the announce table once again to close out the show. Very strong showing here. The arc with Rowan and Daniel on this night was very strong. I think this makes these, Rowan and Harper in particular, look a lot stronger than they ever did when they were like the Bludgeon Brothers with their corny giant mallets and stuff. Like, these guys look like an actual threat. They don't look like a gimmick per se. Like, this is a really strong portrayal of these guys. I can't believe it took this long to get to this point with them. But yeah, strong way to end the show. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. Very tough this week, but I gotta go with Raw once again. I think both shows are really putting out great stuff overall. Both shows are getting very interesting again in a lot of respects. But what put Raw over the top for me was there was just so much going on with that show. Those 3 hours did not drag at all, and I think that show really checked all the boxes for me. There was good action in the ring, there was comedy, there was drama, there was like tension at the end with Bray Wyatt and the whole spooky thing with Seth at the very end, and that weird Firefly Funhouse outro. There's a lot of what the fuckery going on with this whole Maria Kanellis and Rusev storyline. Like, what's going on with that? I have to tune in and see how this is going to end up. Meanwhile, SmackDown did have a lot of that stuff as well. A lot of things that made me want to tune in next week to see how things go. But on the whole, I think Raw was just so much more captivating. Had so much more of that stuff going on. I'm really curious to see what they do next week with Raw. I'm also curious with SmackDown, but more so with Raw. And so, but overall, though, very good week by both shows. I mean, neither one really was bad. But let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to vote which show you thought was better by going to the gimmick in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.